Good afternoon. This meeting of the Public Utilities Commission on June 25th, 2019 is now in session. First order of business is approval of the minutes of the May 28th meeting.
I'll offer a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held May 28th, 2019.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the staff report on the Public Utilities Commission.
I have just a couple comments to make. In the gas department, the gas safety brochures were mailed out to our utility customers, so they should have seen those in their mailbox. This is a public safety brochure that's an annual requirement of the Minnesota Office of Pipeline Safety, so those will go out every year. We had 95 wastewater operators attend a training for the Minnesota Wastewater Operators Association. This training was on May 1st, and it was hosted by our New Ulm wastewater staff at Turner Hall. You might see summer help out painting water hydrants, so just to let you know that we have some summer help going out and doing that. And for energy services, we finished our yearly Department of Commerce Conservation Improvement Program report, and so that is the requirement to for our conservation improvement program. So we'll get a report back saying how we did. Other than that, we also have the. Did you have any questions on that report? Or? Okay. We also have the Employee of the Month this month, and that is Kathy Schaefer. She is a clerical assistant in the electric distribution department. Kathy has been employed with the utilities since November 1997. Her attention to detail is a valuable asset to the electric distribution department. With construction season upon us, multitasking is necessary, and this is certainly a strength that she possesses. Kathy has an excellent understanding of the electric distribution policies and procedures and can handle calls from customers and contractors as well as other employees. During outage situations, she is one of the first ones to respond, and she's willing to give her time also to the Emergency Management Committee. Many times we see crews working out and completing projects, but it's also the staff behind them that's key to a successful project. So that's the case with Kathy. She's responsible for getting payroll out as well as preparing documentation for billing and projects through the work order process. She's willing to fill in wherever is needed, and the utility is lucky to have a dedicated employee such as Kathy Schaefer. So congratulations to Kathy.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to receive and order filed the report regarding the monthly utility operations and recognizing Kathy Schaefer as Employee of the Month for May of 2019.
I'll offer the motion to receive and file the report regarding monthly utility operations.
I'll second.
Okay, we have motion and second. All in favor say cheese.
Cheese.
Just seeing if you're listening. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're gonna move along here. If I can, technical difficulties. The next item of business is the annual financial report for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018.
I'll make the motion to receive the annual financial report for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2018 for the New Ulm Public Utility Commission.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business, installation of the metal portrait of Christian Pregnants. I probably butchered that one. And the power plant building, and Denny Warda is here to talk about that.
First of all, thank you very much for the privilege of showing this to you.
This is an aluminum cutout that will end up being 8 feet tall. And underneath would be the signature of Christian Prignitz. Christian Prignitz has not been recognized properly, I believe. He's the one who's responsible for the layout of our town. In 1858, he laid out the 6,000 some acres that is today city of New Ulm, with its wide streets and all these parks, including a proposed forest from 7th North to 7th South, on which the public utilities building now sits. He already knew that the mills down near the river would put out some smoke, etc., that would be absorbed by the trees to protect the citizens who live on the top. But anyway, this man designed this town, and it is one of only one other that didn't need to be updated in the last 150 years. You know what the other town is? New York City. So it was pretty good company. But anyway, the proposal is that this portrait would be hung on the tower of the Pew building overlooking the park. And the portrait would be lit with a solar panel at night. And somehow or other, we're going to incorporate through the park system a security camera. So his eyes are looking at the park. And so I think it's very fitting that any potential wrongdoers in the park would be able to look up and say, hey, this guy is looking over the park. So, and this proposal today is what you originally received is an error. We found that the brown on top of the, or 4 inches away from the corrugated siding on that tower keeps changing too much. And so the new plan is to make it out of aluminum such as this, and backed by a composite brown material that is totally impervious to weather. And that would give it a nice contrast, and then be fastened directly to the building, which would make it more sturdy and less subject to maintenance conditions down the road. So if you have any questions, I'd be... Oh, and by the way, I'm in the process of applying for a arts grant, and been assured that it fully qualifies.
So the arts grant is what will pay for building
The art would pay for it and installing it.
and the maintenance of it then?
There really shouldn't be any maintenance, except I don't know what it takes to maintain solar panel. I have no clue. That would be the extent of it. And I don't know if that would be the responsibility of the Park and Rec Department or PUC. That's to be determined.
How high up does this go?
It's near the very top of the tower. He was going to put it on the screen, but
It's on the thing.
It's on your thing.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see it down there.
Okay.
Oofda. What does Park and Rec say about this?
I need to go there next. Since it's a PUC building, I was told that this is the first place I need to address the issue. I know that the city council is in favor of it.
President Swan, as far as PUC staff is concerned, they're willing to allow the portrait on the tower. There are some issues that are on the item. One of them was the structural analysis, to make sure that that is secured properly. We probably would want to have that signed off by an engineer of some sort to be able to know that that's not going to,
Fall on
fall
someone.
onto the building. And the one recommendation that maybe we had was that it would go to the Park and Rec Board for authorization so that they can possibly speak to the Friends of German Park if that's something that they want to promote within German Park. So,
On our agenda items, it's talking about the power costs, but if you're saying it's solar, are there any other power costs?
That would be included in the total project,
Okay,
the solar panel and the power drive, yeah.
okay.
right, at the time that the agenda item was made, we weren't sure how it was gonna be lit.
Okay.
And so, but if it's a solar panel, no, there wouldn't be any, other than the replacement of the solar, but that, of course, would be or by someone other than the PUC.
And what about the maintenance? I mean, aluminum, that's gonna pit, I would think, or something after.
There was only a little bit of concern about how the portrait would handle the cooling tower. Vapor or water coming off of the cooling tower.
Mhm.
I don't know if you had talked to anybody about that, Mr. Warder, or if that's.
I have, and
Okay,
there is no visible moisture or anything that I've ever seen or anybody's ever noticed on that tower. It's on the north side, and prevailing winds take it the other direction.
As the plant is just downstream from the cooling towers, I can tell you there's all kinds of stuff that comes down from the cooling towers. So, but that doesn't mean it can't be coated with something to prevent the oxidation on the aluminum. You know, so, but I'll just tell you, there is stuff that comes down, and sometimes, I don't wanna say I can sweep it off the cars, but, you know, there are particulates that come down, especially when they clean them.
It has not left any visible, anything visible at the moment that anybody's ever mentioned to me, so.
Yeah.
The artist, by the way, who's doing the cutout is Arnie Little. He's the same man who did the Heritage Tree. And if you drive by the Treaty Center at St. Peter, that oxen and so on, those are also his work.
The only question I have is, not being a historian, is there any concern that we have around this person, Christian Prignitz, that is there anything in his background that we should be concerned of before we hang a portrait of him overlooking the city? And I don't have that answer, but I'm just, is there a skeleton in the closet? Is there a that will result in us pulling it down at a later date?
I didn't fully get the question now.
So,
We're living in a world where we're constantly taking down Confederate statues and stuff around the United States. Have we done significant research to make sure that Mr. Prignitz was of good moral character and not something that we should be concerned of in the future, that we're going to have people protesting?
This has been accepted, and it's documented at the museum as well as at the courthouse.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Then I'd offer a motion to consider the request to install a metal portrait of Christian Prignitz to the north side of the power plant building facing German Park.
could we have the,
Are we providing that he's going before the Park and Rec,
yeah,
that can we add that to the motion?
Providing the approval of the Park and Rec Department.
can you say that all over one more time?
I'll offer the motion considering the request to install a metal portrait of Christian Prignitz to the north side of the power plant building facing German Park with the acknowledgement and approval of the Park and Rec Department.
And perhaps pending the structural analysis as well?
And pending the structural analysis.
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Wish me luck.
The next item on the agenda is to amend the list of delegates with voting rights for matters coming before the Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association membership.
Commissioners, this is,
There you go.
this is an annual delegate appointment. It's also kind of a little bit of housekeeping. The original, or last year's delegate was the previous utilities director. So we are amending that to myself. And then we have alternates, Dan Persick, the utility engineer, and then Chris Dalton as city manager. What this does is it allows myself and the other two delegates, if I'm not available, to vote on issues that are put forth before the Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association.
Okay,
I will make a motion to amend the list of delegates with voting rights for matters coming before the Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association membership.
okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
It's frustrating.
Having technical difficulties. All right, next item on the agenda is proposal for assessment of the viability of New Ulm becoming a MISO transmission owner.
Good afternoon. This is just as an assessment to kind of put the idea of being a transmission owner either to rest or to actively pursue it by having an independent third party come in and look at this. Over the last few years, we've had several different parties, either internally or other vested interests, come in and give us their interpretation of it. Well, this is a proposal from our electrical consultant to really look into it and figure out if we can do it, what we have to add, excuse me, to our system to become a member, and what some of the benefits and changes to our operations would entail if we were members of MISO as a transmission owner. So if you got any questions, it's pretty well defined that there's 3 phases of the list. This is just for phase 1, the high level, so that if we discover that it's not worth pursuing, we stop after phase 1 and we're done.
This is conjunction with the transmission line that we're looking at.
That'd be one of them that they might look into here as one of the options that might make us a transmission provider.
So we have the replacement of the woodpecker damage line, maybe the loop around the substation, between the substations. It's kind of,
Yeah.
is that what we're talking about?
Yeah,
Well, what
there's-
this is actually looking at this to be a transmission asset. And if we can get these qualified, if you remember a couple of years ago,
Yep.
people talked about it in great deal as a transmission asset. We would get potentially, at this time, 10 to 12% return on all our transmission assets every year. But of course, that number is being appealed right now, and they want to turn it to 8%. But anyways, there is some potential income off of this if we finally decide, yes, we are, or no, we're not a transmission owner.
So this is the whole difference between the radial feed and the loop. And so if, they would be able to come in and tell us what issues we might run into. It's important to find somebody that is knowledgeable about MISO. We don't work with it every day. They are able to, and I believe they've actually worked with some other utilities that have done this as well.
They've done this with a lot of co-ops and some municipals. But the thing is, they deal with this every day, and they know not just the rules, but also what variances that the MISO has allowed to let others in. Because there's a few cases where 69 kV has been let in, but in most cases it's not. Well, we're 69 kV, so we would be not, but there are those variances, if you want to call it, or substitutions, whatever. Well, if we make this, there could be some pretty good money coming back to the utility for it. I don't want to say a specific number because they've got their way of accounting for transmission assets, and we've got our ways, and they have a very particular thing on what's classified as a transmission asset and what isn't.
Do you have any idea how much phase 2 and phase 3 would be after we're done with the 14,000?
What they will do is when we get to like phase 2, they'll have a punch list of what items they'll need to pursue. So rather than giving us just a guess right now, they can give us an accurate number at that time. But with each phase, we'll be coming back here and asking for permission to proceed. So
And
at any
you'll
point.
get a
we can-
report.
Yeah.
We'll present a report to you of what they said. And at that time, you can decide if we want to go further, or if we want to stop the project at that point. This is an opportunity, I think, for us to be able to take a look at doing that loop and having some redundancy, as well as having the opportunity to have someone else help pay for it. Because if we can bring that in as a transmission, if we can bring it in so that we're transmission owners, that is spread out among all of the utilities out there. Right now, we're paying people for transmission. If we can develop our own transmission, we can get a portion of that back as well. So, but we need to take the first step in order to be able to find out if it's, number one, even feasible, and what pitfalls and things that we might run into, which, we can't identify ourselves.
But you're thinking the end result, if we would go through all this phase 1, 2, and 3, it would be enough coming in to cover all these expenses
Very
if we're the
easily,
transmission
probably,
owner.
just by knowing what we have on the books as
Mhm.
transmission assets, it would pay for this project every year.
Okay.
So there's some pretty big ramifications, and that's, I'm not saying a number deliberately, but that would probably be a little bit of a lowball number at that.
It's a first step
Mhm.
in the plan of trying to develop and decide our transmission needs for the utility.
I'll offer the motion to authorize the city manager to accept the proposal of $14,000 for the high-level assessment of the viability of New Ulm becoming a MISO transmission owner from Power System Engineering, Inc.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is an informational report regarding the natural gas supply agreement with the Minnesota Municipal Gas Association to purchase natural gas through a prepay natural gas transaction. Chris?
Okay, Commissioners, this, you've heard this before, and we got through it almost to the end, but there was some situations that we felt we weren't comfortable with. This is another prepaid deal that's come to us. Has some advantages over the last one. This one is actually going to be done through MMUA, which is Minnesota Municipal Utility Association. What the prepay opportunity involves for anybody that's not aware, but they go out and they sell municipal bonds for natural gas. And in order to get the discount on it, they take the spread between tax-exempt bonding and private bonding, and that will create a discount. And so that discount then is passed on to the municipal utilities that are participating in the form of a discount per MMBTU. And so in this particular case, the agreement is for a 30-year term with repricing points every 5 to 7 years. One of the catches to the last one was if the discount wasn't reached, we could step back from the deal at that time, but we were still locked in for the 30 years. This particular one is you'll have your repricing every 5 to 7 years. If we don't hit the discount or the minimum discount that's set, we can decide at that time whether we want to stay in and take that minimum discount, or we can actually back out and we're done with the prepaid deal. What that does then is that allows you the opportunity to get into a different deal if in 5 or 10 years, the discount goes back up and we want to jump in on another one. So it allows the utility a little bit more freedom to be able to handle their gas load. One of the other differences with this particular one is Minnesota municipal bonds are going to be sold. And in other cases, it was always the bonds from different states. In this particular case, it will be Minnesota. We've been told that Minnesota, because of their tax laws, is one of the more advantageous states to try this, to do this. And so with it, we have, I believe, 5 other utilities, municipal utilities, that are looking at joining as well. The agreement, it's a take and pay contract with MMGA. So the utility will not have any liability with the debt that's offered, but our responsibility would be the purchase of the gas. So if for example, our load were to drop, what would end up happening is we would tell MMGA, they would try to reprice that gas, and typically they would go out and they would resell it at index minus a discount. It might not be the discount that was offered, but chances are somebody's going to purchase that gas because gas with a discount is always attractive gas. So typically you're not going to find a penalty situation. I can't tell you it wouldn't be for sure, but most likely you're not going to find a penalty because most places are buying gas at index, and if they can get a discount on it, they'll grab it. Again, I said this deal is between MMGA. It's with our current supplier, British Petroleum, BP, and it's being financed through RBC Capital Markets. RBC has done many of these gas prepays. In fact, there's probably 2 or 3 of them, 4 of them that they've finished already this year. We're next on the agenda to get through. I was on a conference call just last Friday, I believe. The market has kind of changed a little bit, so the discount is kind of narrowing. What the intention is to get things in place so that we can pull the trigger when the market is more favorable. Again, the discount we're anticipating is around 30 cents an MMBTU. The previous one was 20 cents. But again, the discount won't be finalized until we actually sell the bonds. We'll find out exactly what that discount is. We, at this time right now, New Ulm has hired Peter Scanlon with Duncan Weinberg, Ginzer, and Pembroke. He's from Washington, D.C. He's familiar with the contracts, so he has the contract that has been offered to us. He's reviewing that. We went in partnership with the 4 other utilities because all of the contracts are going to be the same, so we're sharing the cost of having him review the contract and any other documents that are associated with this prepay. So what New Ulm is doing is we're looking at, and we're anticipating putting a volume of 31% of the average of our average annual load into this prepay. We don't want to put it all in. We want to leave, some opportunities for the future. But with that volume at a 30 cents MMBTU discount, we're looking at a savings of about $121,000 a year off of our gas price. And what we're asking, or what we're I guess this is an informational thing. We're just wanted to bring it to you to let you know that we're continuing with the process. And we will bring the natural gas supply agreement and then any other documents that are necessary once it's been reviewed by Mr. Scanlon. And then at some point in the near future, it probably will be brought to you for approval to jump into this program. So,
I'll offer the motion to receive and order filed an informational report regarding a natural gas supply agreement with Minnesota Municipal Gas Association, MMGA, to supply Newham with natural gas through a prepay natural gas transaction.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dissolution of the Long-Term Power Committee.
okay, this agenda item is meant to have a discussion about the possibility of dissolving the Long-Term Power Committee. And there's a little background as to how the committee was formed. It originally was formed in 2005 as a generating plant project committee, and there was talk of actually putting in a baseload plant, and that's how the committee started. And then it was later changed to the Long-Term Power Committee when the Integrated Resource Plan, which was done by Sargent and Lundy, was started and then finally completed in 2006. The committee was tabled at that point, and then it was resurrected again in 2015 when we were looking at some long-term transmission issues. And in thoughts with this, there's some significant projects that are coming up in the future for generation, transmission, and distribution. And I feel that to have all of the commissioners aware of all of the issues that are getting brought forth rather than just a couple would be advantageous for the entire commission. I'd like to change the Long-Term Power Committee to more of a work session format so that all of the commissioners would be able to have a part in the work session. If we choose to have, right now there's some citizens that sit on the long-term power and then some city councilors. If we still wanted to do that, we could. But the main focus would be to get all of the commissioners to be a part of this group rather than just a couple. And then, there's always the logistics of, when we get an expert opinion and they have to come and present, do they present to the Long-Term Power Committee? Do they present to the PUC Commission? So it would make some of the logistics a little bit easier as well to deal with. So I guess I wanted to see what the commission's thoughts were on that, if that is acceptable or you want to leave it the way that it is. I guess it's up for conversation.
So who currently from the commission, Linda and?
And then,
Yeah, so this group has kind of lost its way. So we had a pretty narrow focus to start out with, and we were doing some planning around kind of the future of the utility, and which really, I think, does lie in the hands of the group that's sitting here. And so we ended up going a lot of different directions. We talked about transmission, and we talked about the integrated resource plan with Black and Veatch, which I think we're still waiting for. It was, I think and we've had changes in leadership, which also has changed the direction of that group, and I think I would be quite supportive of our new director's approach with this group. So I think setting aside the Long-Term Power Committee, I think it served its usefulness, and I think it's really is time to move into a different path, and so I think Director Manderfeld's idea is a good one.
I mean, I know we did some work sessions with some other stuff, and I did
Mhm.
find that of value.
Okay.
A more relaxed atmosphere.
Mhm.
Any other?
I'll offer the motion to consider approving the dissolution of the Long-Term Power Committee.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion about this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the last item on the agenda is consider acceptance of list of claims to be paid.
I'll offer the motion to accept the list of claims paid in the amount of $2,307,295.72 and approve the list of claims to be paid in the amount of $549,277.72.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any additional business, commissioners? Seeing none, we are adjourned.